Hi, I'm Professor Hitch, and today I'm going to tell you how to create in-text citations. To do this, I have brought up a works cited page that we will be working with momentarily. But before we get started, I want to tell you the basic rule that we're going to be following. MLA works on a name-number format. Each in-text citation, also known as a parenthetical citation, includes a name, often the last name of the author, and includes a number, often the page number. But neither is true all the time, and I suspect that's why a lot of students have tremendous difficulty creating in-text citations. Without further ado, though, I'm going to show you the name-number format in action by commenting on this works cited page. So if you look at this first citation, it says Dean, Cornelia. That is a source with a single author. And as I read a little bit into this, I see that it's from the New York Times. It's from a New York Times website. Based on the information provided to me here, my in-text citation would be Dean. And I might leave it at that. I might actually simply only write Dean and leave out the number. Hypothetically, if this is on the New York Times, there may be a page number hiding somewhere on that website. However, I'm basing these in-text citations off the information that I have available to me in the works cited. Therefore, Dean, that's it. For this next citation, we're looking at something very similar. Single author, so Ebert. Nope, should be capitalized. And it's a website, which means although there may be a page number hiding somewhere on there, I don't have that information, and therefore this would be the appropriate in-text citation. This next one, though, is tricky. It's shaking things up a little bit. We still have a single author, John Gowdy. However, if you look at the bottom here, PP 27 to 36, that means those were the pages referenced for this essay. I'm going to highlight this. My in-text citation would be Gowdy, and I'm going to pretend I'm citing from page 28. Gowdy 28. Some students make the mistake of adding a PP or a PG, or sometimes they mistakenly add a comma. These things are all wrong. It is the name number format, not the name comma number format. The next citation is a little more complicated still. We don't have page numbers, but now we have two authors. How to navigate that situation? For my in-text citation, I will put them in the order that I see them in the works cited page. So I'm going to start with Harris and Refkin. This next one's pretty interesting. This one does not have an author or a page number. This is exactly the kind of citation that I think a lot of students would get messed up on. When your source does not have an author, you would need to cite the title. So I'm going to cite an inconvenient truth, which I don't think I spelled correctly. Nope. A lot more letters in there. Okay. I'm going to leave it here, but with a couple extra things to add. Thing number one, when you're citing a title, make sure your formatting matches the formatting in the works cited page. This, an inconvenient truth, is italicized. Therefore, I should italicize this. Now, you might be wondering, I left off the page number. Did I do that for the same reason that I did for Dean, Ebert, and Harris and Refkin? My answer is actually no. So, let's pretend for a moment that we were referencing minute 15 to minute 15 and 30 seconds in the movie, a 30-second clip. You would actually use those numbers, like so. Depending on how much of a stickler you want to be about it, technically movies happen most of the time in hours instead of minutes, so you might make it a very long timestamp, but this is how you would cite any video source with a timestamp and either the title or author. At this point, I hope that you can start to see a pattern emerging. Your in-text citation should start with a name, yes, but that name should always be the first thing that the reader is going to see on the Works Cited page. Dean matches up with Dean, Ebert with Ebert, Gowdy with Gowdy, Harris with Harris, Anne with Anne, and inconvenient anyway. This pattern is important. When in doubt, when you're not sure what name should go where, pick the name that's closest to the front of your citation. I'm going to skip Marcel Leroux because that seems like a source that we've already tackled. Instead, I'm going to go down to Milken, Michael Milton et al. This is going to have a very interesting in-text citation. So we'd start with his last name, Milken, but we wouldn't go to number just yet, and you will notice there is a P63, page 63. We would do Milken et al. Period 63. The reason why that et al. Is important is because it actually stands for something. Et al. Is Latin for and others, and it signifies that there were at least 3, maybe more authors in this source. When you quote Milken, but you leave out the et al., you write Milken 63, you are falsely claiming that Milken was the only author. Not only do his co-authors suddenly feel very sad that their contributions are not recognized, but that is a mild, although very much real form of plagiarism. You're misrepresenting a source. We'll do this citation very quickly. Nordhaus, 31 to 34. Let's say that we had like a very long quote. Maybe there were some ellipses in the quote to make it shorter. If you're citing more than one page, you do that by using a small hyphen. 31 to 34. Now, reading ahead here, I see that I've actually messed this up. Darn. I'm going to keep recording, though, because I think it's important to show you that even the pros can get things wrong sometimes. You will notice this next source doesn't have an author. It only has a dash, dash, dash. What's that about? Well, in a works cited page, when you have a dash, 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 that means that you're actually repeating the author. That means that William Nordhaus wrote this as well. When do you have 2 sources written by the same author? Instead of using their name and confusing people who will not know which source you're referring to, you use the title. After Kyoto, alternative mechanisms to control global warming. Yikes, that's long though, isn't it? Fun fact. When you're citing a long title, you actually should shorten it up a bit. So you might write After Kyoto or After Kyoto Alternative Mechanisms. Like that. Next page, we're looking at pretty normal sources, and it seems like we're done. I hope this has been a helpful review of how to create in-text citations. Please remember, when you're creating in-text citations, when in doubt, use the first word of your citation, or in the case of our Nordhaus sources, use the first original word after Kyoto